In this episode,
If you said to me you can only take one vitamin, I'm not talking about one product, but one vitamin, and that is it. You're not allowed to take anything else to supplement with. What would it be? One of the main reasons why people who are iron deficient remain iron deficient is that iron supplements have probably the worst compliance and adherence. If sleep is an issue, something that I can recommend is saffron, specifically Afron. Afron is a patented saffron extract. With fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D or E or A, what your body doesn't use is stored in your body's fat reserves and is continuously released. So you can overdose. It's very hard on your kidneys. It can be very hard on your kidneys and your liver. So that's always something I'm wary of, unfortunately.
hello everyone, welcome to Wellness in Chaos. And today we have a new amazing guest, Natalie Vladi. And I'm so glad that I met you personally on one of the events in Hamburg, that I also tried your supplements fundiert, and I also gifted to my mom to use them. So yeah, and I'm sure that this conversation will be very fruitful, inspiring, and will have lots of important knowledge for our modern life.
Well, thank you so much, Maria and Dimitro, for having me.
You're welcome. Really happy to have you here.
Natalie, could you please introduce shortly yourself to our listeners?
I'd love to. Thank you so much. So yes, Maria, we met in Hamburg, which is where I live. I'm a Canadian living in Hamburg. I'm a licensed pharmacist, and I spent more than 20 years working in the research-driven pharmaceutical industry, so for very large global pharmaceutical companies. And a few years ago, introduced my own brand of food supplements called Fundiert.
Thank you.
Natalie, a question regarding supplements. Do we really need supplements, or we can get all essential from the food we eat?
It's a very good question. There's always this question of sort of theory and practice. So yes, in theory, it is possible for most of us to get the daily recommended intake of vitamins and minerals through the food we eat. But in practice, we know that most people have nutritional gaps. And what food supplements can do is they can contribute to closing these nutritional gaps. And there's different reasons. Different people have different reasons for nutritional gaps. Sometimes it's food allergies or just simply food aversions. Some people are on very strict, restrictive diets like keto or Atkins, where entire food groups fall away. Some people maybe who eat a strictly plant-based diet require certain vitamins and minerals in supplement form. During pregnancy, that's also an example where supplements become very important. With increasing age, and there's people who can have difficulty breaking down certain food groups and absorbing the vitamins and minerals. So there's different situations. It is possible, but most of us have nutritional gaps that needs some help closing.
Yeah, but like many people, like many years ago, people were living without supplements, and they were living. But it was like a question: what was they healthy enough, or just our society right now that we need to consume supplements?
You mean that it's gaining in popularity? That
Yeah, because our family members in the past, they didn't consume so much supplements as right now.
That's true. I think they also consumed less processed foods, for example, exposed to less free radicals and oxidative stress. So free radicals, for example, through pollution, deficits of pollution. Ozone is a very big issue, but also another example was processed food or cigarette smoke. And too many free radicals can actually cause oxidative stress. So it can even change our DNA and cause certain illnesses. So that's definitely a reason. And it's also the case that I think more than ever before, we're eating too much of certain food groups and not enough of others. So we're eating a lot of simple carbohydrates, a lot of wheat products, refined sugars, and not enough vegetables and complex carbohydrates and fruits.
Yeah. I have two friends actually. One who is eating only meat, dairy,
Yes. Yes.
and another one who is fruitarian and eat
On the
only
other
dairy.
side, yeah. But that's what I mean with if there's people who have extremely restrictive diets. I
Yeah.
mentioned keto and Atkins, where there are, of course, nutritional gaps that need to be filled. And also because Maria mentions now more than in the past, another reason why food supplements can be important is during times of sort of excessive mental and also physical strain. So a lot of
Mm,
people suffering now from burnout and
yes.
stress, depression, emotional wellness is a really big subject.
I think magnesium, like we need to take magnesium daily in our modern environment because we are all depleted from it.
It is one of the most popular. So the market research shows that magnesium is one of the most popular food supplements that's actually taken.
Mm-hmm. And for example, I see that I should take some supplements. I have low ferritin, so I should take iron. For example, I have low vitamin D, so I need to take vitamin D. And
Yes.
is there any checklist of a trustworthy supplement company? How to choose the right one?
Um, oh, that's a question. I mean, that one question is a podcast in itself. But because you mentioned ferritin, which is iron, I'll go with that example that you mentioned. So, ferritin, one of the main reasons that, first of all, it's good that you know where you have, what low levels you have. So that's something that I always advise people, as I say, in when a time where you're healthy, so not where you've just had a major cold or you're feeling poorly or you've been on prescription medication, but during a time of your life when you're feeling really good, it's certainly worth it to have your blood taken and analyzed so that you have a sort of base case and you
Mm-hmm.
know what your levels are. So that down the road, if there's a time maybe where you're not feeling as well, people know that the healthcare professionals you're dealing with know what your own base case is. So it's good that you know that. Ferritin is a great example because one of the main reasons why people who are iron deficient remain iron deficient is that iron supplements have probably the worst compliance and adherence of any mineral products because the
Mm-hmm.
side effects are quite harsh. So
Yes.
common side effects of iron are constipation and this penny taste. You get a metallic taste in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So with iron, it's very important what the ionic charge is. So there's iron 2 and there's iron 3. So iron 2 is ferrous iron, iron 3 is ferric. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's the iron 2 that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because that has less side effects, also less bloating, less cases of black stool, constipation, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Why I mention this because you said what to look for in a food supplement brand. Always look for a supplement brand that states the form of the vitamin or mineral under the nutrient reference value table. So the law in all of Europe is that every single food supplement on the market has what is called a nutrient reference value table. So it says what vitamin or mineral and how much and what percent of the daily recommended intake that represents. But all it needs to say is iron, so and so many milligrams, or
Yes.
vitamin B12, so and so many micrograms. It does not need to say, is it iron 2 fumarate, or is it iron 3, is it ferric iron, is it vitamin B12, for example, you have a non-bioactive form, which is cyanocobalamin, and you have bioactive forms. It's always important to have the bioactive form. How do you know what you're taking if the form of the vitamin or the mineral is not stated under the table? And it doesn't need to be. So companies that are spending the money to include bioactive vitamins, for example, or the vitamins that have that are backed by clinical research, that are also more costly as a rule, will always state the form. So that's always a really good sign. You'll find
Mm-hmm.
vitamins that just have the table but not under ingredients state what form the vitamin or mineral is. And that's something to look for. I'm also personally, I always think that a purely online brand you need to be more
Mm-hmm.
careful with. If a brand is available in health food stores or in pharmacies, especially, you know that some sort of pre-selection has taken place, conform
Mm-hmm.
regulations, a regulatory process has been gone through. If it's online, what I suggest is you always look in the impressum. So in Europe, if you scroll right to the
Yeah.
bottom of the page, you'll find the person that's responsible for the company.
Yeah.
Take the time, Google. I recently saw a brand and I thought, oh, looks really nice. I didn't look at the ingredients. I just saw, oh, it's a brand I didn't know. And I looked on the impressum and the same person had a store, I kid you not, for batteries and LED light bulbs.
Yeah.
So, that would be an advice I give you
Mm-hmm.
as well, is
Mm-hmm.
always to check.
Yeah.
Uh, Natalie, so for example, I went to Reform House. I wanted to buy magnesium,
Yes.
but they only had magnesium oxide.
Yeah.
So like the cheapest, not the best version of magnesium. So
You were
uh,
looking for magnesium glycinate, or what is it you were looking for?
uh, it's like what's my personal research that magnesium oxide is not the
Yeah.
best
Yeah,
form.
yeah, which is true.
Yeah, so I was searching for chelated form or for dioxide, as I remember. Yeah, but they didn't have it. So it's not all like, for example, even if they have something in the pharmacy, it doesn't prove that it's the best
No, no.
quality product.
You take the time, do the research, find out what is the bioactive form.
Mm-hmm.
Chelated is often recommended. So the zinc that we use is called L-optite zinc. It's chelated with L-methionine. And for
Mm-hmm.
people watching who maybe don't know what chelated means, so in the case now of L-optite zinc, or what Maria was saying with magnesium, is it's almost like a piggybacking. So you take like an amino acid that is very well absorbed, and then you piggyback the zinc or the magnesium onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it has often 25, 30, 35% higher bioavailability than it would otherwise have. But
Mm-hmm.
we're really getting into the specifics. So I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
I don't know your audience, but you're really asking the detailed questions.
Yeah, I'm just listening, and I'm not sure. Like, I'm aware of all the vocabulary that you mentioned. So, but
Yeah,
it's okay.
so because I mentioned, so two words that I think or two phrases that I think are worth knowing are bioactive and bioavailability. So you often hear bioavailability in the context of food supplements, and that is how much of a vitamin or a mineral is actually absorbed into the systemic circulation and
Yeah.
can be used to perform certain functions and bring with it health benefits. So you have certain vitamins where certain forms have very low bioavailability and others have higher. So you want that. And bioactive refers to a bioactive form of a vitamin or mineral, refers to the form that is in your body naturally. So it does not first need to be converted into the bioactive form, because through conversion, you have conversion losses. So you actually don't know how much of what your intake is actually being converted into the bioactive form.
Yeah. And are there any like obvious red flags when you take a bottle of supplements and you see that this brand is not trustworthy or this might be shady? Like some obvious signs.
Yes, so always be weary of too good to be true claims. Anything, especially in the sector, for example, weight loss, that's a sector where you often have these claims, take this food supplement and you'll have a flat stomach in 2 weeks. I promise you, you will not. Things that just sound too good to be true often are. That's certainly a red flag. Another red flag is this super strength, maximum strength, extra strength, more is better. That's a red flag, because there are certain vitamins and minerals where that's not the case. There's a great saying in German, die Dosis macht das Gift. It means the dose makes the poison. There are
Mm-hmm.
things that in a certain dose are very healthy for you. A great example is fat soluble vitamins. So water soluble vitamins like vitamin C or B, as a rule, what is not absorbed when you go to the bathroom, it's eliminated.
Hmm.
So the risk of overdose is quite low. With fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D or E or A, what your body doesn't use is stored in your body's fat reserves and is continuously released. So you can overdose. It's very hard on your kidneys. It can be very hard on your kidneys and your liver. So that's always something I'm wary of. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm Canadian. In North America, especially in the US, you don't find anything normal strength anymore. Everything is sort of extra maximum. Be wary of brands that use a lot of fillers and additives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So try to look for clean brands. And then there are a few key sort of additives. If once you learn them, then when you hold a product in your hand, if it contains, for example, if you go into your medicine cabinet and you have a look, microcrystalline cellulose, you will see a lot of products, a lot of food supplements contain microcrystalline cellulose, which is wood pulp. So
Mm,
this you're ingesting
yeah.
wood pulp because it fills up the capsule. Another thing to look for is magnesium stearate. That's actually used to make products sort of slide through the machines better, but it causes side effects. It acts as a laxative in your body. So to look for brands that are clean, that do not have allergens, additives, or fillers is something that's always a red flag.
Yeah, I'm always questioning why brands add colors or sugar to supplements. So they literally turn this into a candy instead of supplement.
Well, sometimes I understand the reason. I mean, we have a product, I think it's one of our best products. I take it every single day, and it contains selenium. And selenium is a mineral that helps support the immune system, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very important. And it smells.
Okay.
So, just in its natural state, it has sort of a sulfurous, unpleasant smell.
Mm-hmm.
And any product that you have, if it contains selenium and it
Yeah.
doesn't smell, you know that masking agents are being used. So masking agents are like perfumes, which we don't use. So we have one product that is not scent neutral. That's a reason sometimes why people use additives to cover a scent
Mm-hmm.
or to make
Mm-hmm.
the color more pleasant.
Mm-hmm. And Natalie, how do you think what are the most overrated supplements on the market people use nowadays?
Um, if you're talking about ingredients, something that I just can't see anymore is melatonin. I mean, if you go
Melatonin.
into a drugstore now,
Mhm.
like I feel like it's a quarter of the products are melatonin in every application form you can imagine. And while I have no problem with it if you're taking it for a very short amount of time, melatonin is very inexpensive and it's very easy to formulate. So a lot of brands use it. It's a hormone, though. And
Mhm.
what happens if you take it long term is that it actually affects your body's own melatonin
Can you
production.
explain firstly what is that melatonin for those who don't know?
Melatonin is a hormone that is it has an effect on your on your circadian rhythm. So on the amount of time where you're sort of awake and where you're tired, and it's tied to light and dark fluctuations. That's why they say for an hour before you go to bed, you should avoid blue light. So
Mhm.
you shouldn't look in your phone or in your iPad or watch television because that actually decreases the melatonin, right? Because it's not dark and the melatonin. So that's what it is. It's a hormone, and it's not secreted then when you're exposed to, for example, blue light or also daylight.
Mhm.
People take it as an aid for jet lag, but also just as a sleeping aid now.
Yeah.
And if you take it more than just sort of sporadically and very short term, I mean, you have parents giving it to their children now. And yeah,
Oh my God.
which
But actually,
recommend.
I
Yeah,
saw in DM or Rossmann
yeah,
supplement for kids with melatonin to
yeah,
sleep.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Really?
if you, I mean, again, if you're taking it long term, it affects your body's own melatonin production, and it also comes with side effects, with gastrointestinal side effects, and that's something that I really don't like. I think is majorly overrated. And another thing that I think is very overrated are these gummies. Like I can't personally, I can't stand these gummies, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I understand intuitively why they're popular. I mean, you grab a couple, they taste yummy. It seems like no mess, no fuss. but it's not a gentle production process. So this mass that is poured into gummy bear form or strawberry or smiley face or whatever the mold
Yeah.
is heated to quite a high temperature, sometimes 2 times in the production process.
Mm-hmm.
So the integrity of the ingredients is compromised. That's one reason. Another reason is that I think, especially for children, it's problematic. In the morning, you're saying, take these vitamins, they're good for you. After a kid's birthday party, you're saying, don't eat the vitamins, they're not good for you. I have a bit of an issue with that. And we know that it's very problematic to standardize dose with gummy vitamins. So
Mm-hmm.
often companies will overdose at the beginning of the process in the hopes that at the end of the production process, the stated amount is remaining. So anyway, not a fan of the gummies. I think that's very overrated.
Plus,
Yeah.
they usually don't contain like big or insufficiently enough amount of active vitamin. Like it's like very small dosage usually.
Well, that's not always the
No.
case. That's
Mm-hmm.
not always the case. There's actually cases where it's very difficult to standardize the dose, and that's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly legal because in all of Europe, food supplements are not medicinal products. They are foodstuffs. So actually, what is written on the label that I mentioned, this NRFV label, is allowed to fluctuate up to 50% compared to what is actually contained in the vitamin in both directions. So 50% more than is stated or 50% less.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm not a fan of the gummies. Try to avoid those if you can. They haven't made their way into the health food stores, the Reformhäuser in Germany. I hope they won't.
Yeah. And regarding melatonin, I remember I had sleep problems, and
Yes.
I went to three pharmacy to get some advice regarding my problems, and all the pharmacy people, they recommend me to take melatonin,
Yeah.
and it was quite interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there are wonderful botanicals that you can take. So if sleep is an issue, something that I can recommend is saffron,
Saffron.
specifically Affron. Affron is a patented saffron extract. And the studies show that it actually raises your body's own melatonin production. So instead of taking melatonin, your body's own melatonin is heightened and it decreases the cortisol. So cortisol is a stress hormone and it decreases cortisol secretion. And we know that within days, the studies have shown, and I'm not talking about 12 women were asked after 2 weeks, are you sleeping better? I'm talking about
Mhm.
double blind, placebo controlled, randomized studies published in peer reviewed journals that there's a statistically significant improvement in the amount of time it takes to fall asleep and sleep
Yeah.
quality, which is defined as not waking up, several
Mm-hmm.
times at
And once
night.
again, how it's called? Saffron, right?
Well, saffron extract. Now, the saffron extract that I recommend is called Affron, Affron. It's made by a Spanish pharmaceutical company called biotech company called Farm Active Biotech Products. But I'm not. This is it's not my company. It's just it's Fundiert saffron of choice. It is the most published saffron extract in the world. And that
Oh,
means it
wow.
has the most human clinical studies that are conducted on different health benefits. But because you mentioned sleep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Uh,
that's measured using saliva swabs. So you
mm-hmm.
measure the saliva in someone's mouth for melatonin and cortisol an
Mm-hmm.
hour before they take the Affron, and then you measure it an hour after, and you see the difference.
As I remember, there is when tea, like you can make tea from saffron. Or, am I
Yes,
right?
but yes, well, of course you can, but I mean, you can also make a golden latte with turmeric, but that is not comparable to taking, for example, an Affron or a curcumin
Mm-hmm.
supplement where you have um, the bioactive extract. So, for example, Affron is standardized to 3.5% leptocrosolides, and leptocrosolides are these secondary plant compounds that actually bring with them the health benefits. So
Mhm.
it's the same if you put a little bit of turmeric and milk and honey and a little bit of pepper in a golden latte and you drink it, you cannot compare that with taking a curcumin supplement that has a standardized amount of secondary plant compounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
And right now, if we go to also pharmacies or drugstores, together with melatonin, we see ashwagandha.
Yes.
Extremely popular.
Yes, it is. I mean, like I said, I prefer from this group of adaptogens
Yeah.
and botanicals. I think for that category, and for me, that category means mental wellness, whether that
Mm-hmm.
be depression or burnout or anxiety, often tied to and
Mhm.
related to also with sleep issues. In my personal opinion, and the
Mm-hmm.
clinical data that I've seen, I think that Afron is best in class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a friend who was taking ashwagandha, and he said like he felt amazing. He had a increase in focus.
Great.
And yeah, felt pretty energized. I I was quite encouraged to try it because I was amazed by his results. So I wanted to
Yes.
try it to see how it works for me. So for me, I didn't notice any difference, to be honest.
In that sector, you also get a lot of sort of subjective feedback. Some people, for example, swear by St. John's wort for depression. Others say, didn't help me at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
For fundiert products, we are led by the clinical data and
Mm-hmm.
the quality and the amount of the clinical data that we see for this specific saffron extract
Hmm.
has convinced me.
Natalie, and regarding most underrated supplements, can you point out some of them?
Yes, I feel like nowadays people are always looking for something that's sort of very sexy and new and has a romantic story tied to it. You know, this is some special herb that was found in, I don't know, the mountains, the Himalayas, and is sort of harvested by elves at midnight by moonlight, sort of that sort of romantic story. And then they say, oh God, don't talk to me about, you know, boring vitamin C or zinc or D. Like, they want something that's new and often think, well, new is better. And that's not always the case. So, for example, what I think is very underrated, if you said to me you can only take one vitamin, I'm not talking about one product, but one vitamin, and that is it. You're not allowed to take anything else to supplement with. What would it be? I would say vitamin D. Whereas a lot of people say, like, oh, that's not new. That's not.
Mhm.
It's very important, first of all, because it improves it supports a healthy immune system,
Mm-hmm.
uh, supports the health of bones and teeth, calcium absorption in the blood. There are countries like in Scotland where everyone gets it free until I think 3 years old. We know that everybody should be taking it from their first day of, being born
Yeah.
um, forever. And we know that, for example, in that age group between 2 and 11, longitudinal studies conducted by the Robert Koch Institute over 20 years have shown that in Germany, less than 5% of children between the ages of 2 and 11 are getting the daily recommended intake of vitamin D.
Mhm.
Most of us should be and are wearing high SPF. So I always wear SPF 50. And often we have a very long winter here, but you should also be taking it year round. So vitamin C.
Okay, yeah.
Vitamin C also, I mean, it's an antioxidant, so it fights free radicals, supports the immune system, supports collagen, so collagen
Mm-hmm.
formation, which is of course good for your skin elasticity. Also something where people are like, oh God, you know, my grandmother took vitamin C. It's not. So new isn't always better. What we like to do is we use the vitamins and the minerals for fundiet products that are tried and tested, where you know that the health benefits are proven, but then to make sure that you really, for each of those, you take the best in class
Yeah.
bioavailability, bioactive form. Yeah.
And for those people who don't have deficiency of vitamin C or D, should they still consider taking it to
Yeah,
prevent
the
deficiency?
German Federation, Deutsche Gesellschaft für Ernährung, which is like the German Federation for Nutrition, recommends that everybody from the age of 1 onwards takes between 800 micrograms and sorry, 800 international units to
Mm-hmm.
1,000 international units a day. So to put that in perspective, 1,000 international units are 25 micrograms. That's 500% NRV, 500% nutrient reference value, because we know, and the studies show, that most people have a vitamin D level that is too low. So that is something where they say, okay, if you haven't been tested, the recommendation is still for everyone from age 1 onwards to take between 800 and 1,000 international units a day. Then, of course, you have people who are taking 20,000 a week, but that hopefully is under the supervision of a physician. So if you've
Mm-hmm.
had a bone density test, for example, like a bone density scan, or if you've had blood work done, and you know that you have very low vitamin D levels, you're often prescribed a much, much higher dose that you take once a week.
Mhm.
That
Natalie,
reminds me, I do want to say one thing, because there's a brand that does very good vitamin D gummies, but they are blistered. So my exception to what I said about the gummies are, there are certain gummies that are in blisters that
okay,
that can
Mhm.
circumvent some
amazing.
of the problems that conventional gummies have.
Natalie, and I want to ask regarding fungi supplements. Most of them they're in spray form, right?
Half of them are. Half of the
Okay,
Fungia supplements are oral sprays,
yeah.
which is a very innovative application form. Took a very long time to formulate, because taste, of course, is also a
Mm-hmm.
factor in oral sprays. But they're very, very popular in our range of products. They're also, vitamins and minerals are also absorbed through the oral mucosa, so they're rapidly
Mhm.
available. I say also absorbed because, of course, if you the parts that you swallow go
Yeah.
through the normal sort of digestive tract, but they're also very easy to dose and
Mm-hmm.
very convenient. You don't need water. So, for example, if we stay with the example of vitamin D tablets are tiny. Like, it's not a
Yes.
problem to take them. But my father, who was
Mhm.
supposed to take 2,000 international units a day because of hip issues, he had a hip operation, always forgot. And I would remind him, take it, always forgot. And now, ever since he's had the Fundiat vitamin D spray, it sits on his desk. Whenever he sees it, he takes two
Mm-hmm.
sprays 1,000 international units, and he doesn't
Mhm.
forget anymore. Yeah. And
Um,
compliance is a big issue. I mean, having the best vitamins in your shelf aren't going to help you if you don't remember to take them.
and I think it's a great way for people who don't have very strong
Yeah.
digestive system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To bypass the digestive system and have it absorbed through the
Mm.
mucosa, definitely. And
And
also, children love it. I mean, we have
yeah.
that's a most popular product is a multivitamin spray for kids, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is just
Mm-hmm.
so. Also, if you have siblings, different ages, you can dose up, you can dose down. It has a very pleasant taste, sugar free.
Mm-hmm. And I saw, for example, magnesium in the form of oil, body oil.
Yes.
Uh, do you think like such products like um oil suitable
Listen, I have nothing
vitamin?
against it. I have nothing against it. It can certainly, I mean, if you're talking about a large surface area,
Yeah.
some of it can be absorbed systemically. So
Mm-hmm.
there are bath flakes with
Yes.
magnesium. There are, like you said, oils, creams, balms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because not to put everything in our mouths, but just to absorb through our body as
Yeah,
well.
and also not that often these tonics and elixirs. You'll see children's vitamins when they're in liquid form. They come with a little cup, and then that
Yes.
has to be washed, or an oral syringe where you pull up the dose and then inject it in the mouth, and then you have to clean that. And the
Mm-hmm.
sprays are very hygienic and
Yeah.
Yes.
no fuss, no mess.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And talking about sport nutrition, protein, creatine, collagen, etc. Should we trust such brands like My Protein, let's say, or Optimum Nutrition? And how does it affect in the long term taking these supplements?
Sports nutrition. Now, that's certainly not an area that I'm focused on.
Yeah.
I don't like to speak about particular brands, but sure, creatine or collagen and athletes, it depends what sort of lifestyle you're living. I mean, if we're talking about an athlete who's doing high intensity, like really maximum high intensity sort of intermittent exercises, bodybuilders, weightlifters, sprinters, then there may be an argument for it. So creatine is it's a compound that stems from 3 different amino acids, and it's meant to improve recovery in athletes. So you train, then you compete, and then your body recovers. And there are athletes that swear by it. There is data that supports creatinine use. It decreases the dehydration, increases sort of energy flow to the muscles. I don't need it. Dimitro, I don't know what sort of athletic
Yeah, for example, for usual people
performance.
who work out, maybe go to the gym like maybe 3-4
Yeah.
times a week, they do some resistance training. So they put their muscle under pressure,
Yeah.
and so they need probably recovery, and maybe
Yeah,
there
but
is.
again, look at the dose. I mean, the recommended dose, and again, I don't have creatinine products that I've formulated. The recommended dose was about 3 to 5 grams a
Yeah.
day. And then there are products that begin at much, much higher. So it's always a question how much you're taking. But sure, if you're that sort of athlete and you're doing intermittent, high intensity sports, there may be an argument for it. The same with collagen. I mean, collagen is it's a protein, and
Mhm.
athletes take it to improve sort of joint and the healing of also of joints and joint health. Studies show that you need to take it for at least 3 months, usually for about 6 months before you see some sort of effect.
Mhm.
It's the same with, you see it in a lot of skincare products. And they say
Yes.
you do need to take it for a very long time, for about 6 months, before the studies show that any sort of skin elasticity is improved.
Yeah, I take creatine and I take collagen
Yeah.
because I work out almost every day.
Yeah.
But
See,
I don't know how to
do you know how
accurately.
much you take?
I take a creatine is up to 4 grams.
Yeah, that's perfect. You're right in the sweet spot. You're supposed to be taking about 3 to 5 grams is per day is the dose, and for collagen, it's about 3 to 15.
Yeah, but what I'm concerned about is how to actually evaluate the impact of those supplements on your body.
Well, I think in that case, it's how you feel, right? It's how do your muscles feel? How do your joints feel? How quickly are you recovering from hardcore exercise compared to before you were taking it? I think
Mhm.
that would be more of a yes, subjective sort of
Yeah.
analysis. But yeah, many athletes take it, and
Mhm.
And do you experience any side effects at all, if you don't mind me asking a personal question?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Sometimes there's an issue with gas and bloating with high dose collagen, but not for everyone. Not for everyone.
Yeah, I think on the physical level, probably I don't experience any side effects. Maybe on the like mental level, maybe my brain could have operated like on a way higher level. Let's say
Okay.
regarding focus or productivity, maybe this thing, but I'm not sure I can evaluate it correctly.
A big development in collagen is now also that, I mean, we used to rely more on bovine collagen, but now there's also marine collagen that's on the
Mhm.
market, and vegan
Yeah.
options, which some
Yes.
people are very pleased about. But
Mhm.
again, vitamin C I can recommend as well. Improves your body's own collagen
Yes.
production and resources.
Totally.
And so it's a good topic that we just started to talk about, and so about supplement absorption. And sometimes, for example, we take a supplement because we have checked our blood test. We checked our blood. We saw that we have low ferritin or lower vitamin D. We are taking the supplements, but there is no change. And it's not my case. And for me, for example, I'm taking ferritin and took ferritin, not ferritin iron before, because I had extremely low ferritin. I took a supplement. I had zero side effect and it improved. But for many people, for females, for example, there is no difference. Sometimes it even goes worse. And how to make sure that our body absorbs the supplements we take?
Ferritin, as I said, we know that one of the main reasons when people's levels don't increase is that they're not complying or
Mm-hmm.
adhering to taking it. But you're saying in your case you did. Another case when you're taking staying with iron as an example, and the levels don't increase, you have to rule out any sort of increased bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's iron relevant. But for other vitamins, there's also, I'll give you an example. Some people say I have low calcium and I eat a lot of milk, I eat cheese, I eat
Mm-hmm.
butter, I eat yogurt, I even eat dark leafy greens. For example, a lot of people don't know kale has more calcium than a lot of dairy products. But what they don't know is that they have low vitamin D levels.
Mm-hmm.
And vitamin D has a positive influence on the absorption of calcium.
Mhm.
So that's sometimes a reason. People are saying, oh, I wanted to improve my calcium and I'm eating all these dairy products and it's not improving, but not making that connection that, oh, I should also see what are my vitamin D levels. If my vitamin D levels are too low, the calcium is not being absorbed. So that's an example. I already talked about the bioactive form of vitamins. So maybe someone who has very low levels of certain vitamins, but isn't taking the bioactive form, which means that there are extreme conversion losses, that the vitamin is not being absorbed systemically to then benefit from the health
Mhm.
advantages.
I know, like, very often when people suffer with digestive issues, any sort of them, usually they have low absorption of anything.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also, I mean, to be sure that the amount you think you're taking, you're actually taking. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
it's allowed to vary up to 50%. Which doesn't mean take a brand that is super strength, maximum strength. But one thing I would always recommend looking for is that your food supplements are GMP manufactured. GMP is a certification. It stands for Good Manufacturing
Mm-hmm.
Practice. So pharmaceutical grade products are GMP manufactured. You can always write a company and ask. And that way, as a rule, the variation should not be more than between 3 to 5%. Another thing to look for is self-certification. So at the moment, you can draw a flower and write vegan. Nobody is going to stop you. And for things that are particularly important to you, so if vegan is important to you, I wouldn't rely on self-certification. I would see that it is Vegan Society approved or V-Label. All of our products are V-Label
Mhm.
certified, third-party tested. So European certification. That's also something to look for. Is it a company that self-certifies or undergoes third-party testing?
So companies can just lie that they're vegan, even be not
Well, it doesn't
vegan.
necessarily mean that they're lying, but it's not audited or tested. So for me to get the for me to get the V label, I'm laughing now because there were moments where I thought, why am I even doing this to myself? Forget it. It was a long process. Every single ingredient needs to be submitted. You have
Mm-hmm.
to agree to open up the manufacturing to spot checks and audits, to make sure that a machine where, let's say, a fish oil capsule was
Yeah.
produced, how is that machine cleaned? How is it managed before maybe a different product runs through it? I don't know. I don't want to say lying, but it's certainly, as a
Not checking.
consumer,
Uh-huh.
if you want to be absolutely sure,
Mhm.
I would not rely on self-certification.
Yeah. Natalie, what was the point that you decided to start your own brand of supplements?
I took supplements myself. I had a lot of friends and family taking supplements who would often ask me questions about what supplements to take. And I knew of some wonderful ingredients that I had ideas for that I wanted to formulate. And none of our products are or white label, private label. So these aren't products that we're buying and just putting our
Mhm.
name on. Every single ingredient is hand picked. There are our own formulations, completely proprietary, unique products, all produced here in Northern Germany. And
In
I'm
Hamburg.
close to,
Okay.
about 80 kilometers from Hamburg. And I also really like this application form. I think that a lot can be done for compliance and adherence by breaking down barriers. And one barrier is having an alternative to tablets and capsules. I don't mind capsules at all. I take them no problem, but a lot of people do. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was just having this very clean product based entirely on the results of clinical research that is produced to pharmaceutical standards, and it gives me a lot of satisfaction. Yeah.
Cool. Natalie, are there any supplements that greatly affect our longevity?
Oh, you're asking all the, and this is not like for viewers, you need to know longevity was not a question that I got somehow in advance. So I'll tell you, you see a lot of products right now on the market. So when you Google longevity, something that pops up, I'd say most of the time is NMN, which is
Mhm.
what I think you're referring to, probably Dimitro, which is very controversial because in Europe it's actually it can be sold as a chemical but not as a food supplement.
Mhm.
And it is so the rationale behind it is that NMN is a precursor to NAD. NAD is a building block of our DNA. And by the age of 40, people have about 50% the amount of NAD that they had in their 20s. So the idea is to take this NMN, which is a precursor to NAD, and NAD decreases by about 50% in your 40s. And why is NAD important? Because it is linked to certain health issues, for example, cognition. So this is all like the verdict is still out. Like none of this is confirmed,
Yeah.
and a lot of studies have to be done. But there's work being done on Alzheimer's and on other cognitive, primarily, but also physical diseases, where the goal is to increase longevity. And longevity is defined as living a longer life, but also living a longer life better. So not
Yes.
just living longer, but living
Yeah.
longer healthy. And this is an issue with NMN products. You often see that they're imported from other countries. Like I said, so at the moment, the current status is that it's a chemical, not a food supplement. Officially, it shouldn't have a dose, because if you give a product a dose, it means that there is a dose that is agreed upon as appropriate.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of studies need to be done. I know a lot of, not a lot, but I know that companies are applying for GRAS status. So GRAS means generally regarded as safe. This is all ongoing. I think it's just too soon to tell.
Yeah. I saw many people on the internet, like
Yeah, I
in
know.
their 70s,
Yeah.
80s, who were able to run, to do some pull-ups, to do all the physical activities that they were able to do, like in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah, but do you remember when you asked me right at the beginning of our talk about red flags, and I said sometimes things that just seem too good to be true, like
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah.
someone who's extremely unhealthy, maybe very morbidly obese and unfit, and then they take a supplement and the next thing is
Mm.
doing jumping jacks at 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the same topic regarding the supplements for hair, skin, and nails that actually sometimes can even make worse for our skin, nails, and hair. And like, what do you think about this kind of supplements?
there are definitely vitamins and minerals that support the health of skin, hair, and nails. No question. I have an issue sometimes with some of the supplements that are out there, also with regards to the dosing and the ingredients. So sometimes you'll see €90 for 30 days, and you look at the product and it's biotin, which is vitamin B7. and maybe a little bit of collagen, and then it's marketed very beautifully, this sort of pink washing, where he's like, well, it's mainly a female product, and she'll buy it if it's pretty. That's what bothers me. But there are skin, hair, and nail products that are absolutely of value. So, for example, vitamin A, which you may know is retinol,
Yes.
we know can have a positive effect on skin. Also, vitamin C. I talked about collagen production, zinc, selenium. These are all many of the B vitamins, not just vitamin B7, all
But B12.
well, the B's are B7, B2, B3. Those are the one that mainly play
Okay.
a positive role in
Mhm.
skin and nails. Yeah.
I read that B12 actually, if it's overdosed, can cause more acne.
It can, absolutely. B12 absolutely can. If it's too
Mm-hmm.
high dosed, it can cause acne. What's interesting though, also, if you look at these products, so I mentioned, interestingly, many of the products that are beneficial for hair, skin, and nails also carry the health benefit. So from the EFSA, European Federation for Food Safety, supports a healthy immune system. But if you see products that contain zinc and selenium, and for example, vitamin C and some B vitamins as an immune product, that product is often less expensive, interestingly, as if when it is then packaged, almost the same ingredients, very
Yeah.
similar dose, but then it's a hair, skin, and nail product that is often not a unisex product. And then
Marketing,
all of
yeah.
a sudden it's a lot more expensive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the best time to take supplements?
You can't give that sort of general answer.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a best time. I like to take supplements in the morning after breakfast.
Yeah.
So some people, like my husband, can drink 3 black coffees on an empty stomach. He's fine. Doesn't bother him at all. I am not like that. So I like to have something. I like to have had a breakfast and then take my supplements as a rule. But then there's certain supplements. Maybe Maria mentioned magnesium. If you're taking it because you maybe have restless legs, or you're taking it for tension related
Mm.
issues, maybe it's better to take it in the evening.
Yeah.
But as a rule, I'd say when you start your day, and not on an empty stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And it's a bit another topic, but what is your take on GLP-1 meds, medications like Ozempic?
Like I said,
Uh, yeah, since November last year, the hype around Ozempic started to increase and increase daily. And I know it's medication for diabetes, but people take it to lose their weight, which
yeah,
is
I
not
mean,
the
that's
main
the
reason.
reason it was in the press. It wasn't in the press so much for the diabetics taking it. It was in the press for all the people taking it off license to
Mhm.
lose weight. And lose weight you do. I mean, that's why I find it so interesting when you see these food supplements and they say, oh, no one's ever heard of it, and it's this food supplement that causes massive weight loss. That's not true, because believe me, as soon as there is something, and I think Ozempic was the proof of that, where you know that it is conducive to weight loss, within like 5 minutes, everyone around the world has heard of it. So certainly not a recommendation from me for you to take it, but that just a good example that these food supplements saying it's conducive to weight loss is not the case. So what Ozempic is it's called a GLP-1 agonist. That is the official class. Ozempic is a GLP-1 agonist. And so is Wegovy. I mean, I don't want to be making ads for these big pharmaceutical companies and their products, but Ozempic was being taken off license. It mimics a hormone that's called GLP-1. That's why it's called a GLP-1 agonist. It copies this hormone that is called GLP-1. And the stomach releases this hormone when you've eaten food, right? So
Mhm.
diabetics are prescribed it to control their blood insulin. Blood insulin is like their blood sugar levels,
Yes.
mainly people with type 2 diabetes. So very quickly, it was noticed that it was being prescribed to regulate blood glucose levels, but that these type 2 diabetics were losing significant amounts of weight. also very quickly. So then it was being given off license to people. So that caused also a problem because diabetics who needed it weren't getting it. That was one issue. But
Yes.
also that, it's a hardcore prescribed medication. I mean, you inject it. Anything that you inject is also comes with sort of additional
Side
risks
effects.
that shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, where you're injecting, there's always a heightened risk of infection, but there's also gastric side effects that were severe. I mean, people
Mhm.
who had massive cases of nausea, of diarrhea, of bloating, of gas, feeling very, very unwell taking it. Yeah.
This is
But
how people are losing weight.
don't take it. I mean, if you're a type 2 diabetic and you're prescribed it to control your blood glucose levels, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. There's websites now, please avoid them, that say, oh, a weekend, and then they have some sort of online doctor that you don't even really talk to. And then they say, we can get it to you without a prescription or with a kind of shady e-prescription. And these
Yeah.
companies are all based, often outside of the
Yeah.
EU. I would say avoid it. It's not to be messed with.
I saw that Ozempic was and still advertised on the American television. Just typical ad to see like
I
between
mean, it's
some
legitimate
episodes.
for type 2 diabetics to take. But it was being taken by people who, wanted to lose 10
Yeah.
kilos, and not by someone who was morbidly obese and had it prescribed by their physician, or who had type 2 diabetes. It reduces your appetite, is what it
Yeah.
does. And it also slows gastric emptying. That's how it
Hmm.
works. So it actually has this effect on your brain of thinking that it's full for longer, but
Hmm.
you risk serious side effects, and I wouldn't take it.
Yeah, I have a friend in US, and he said like he right now sees GLP-1 ads everywhere in buses,
Yeah.
on TV, even in coffee shop. Like lately, I saw a post from Andrew Huberman. It was a
Mhm.
coffee shop, and there was this chalkboard. We have Ozempic.
Yeah.
Come over.
Yeah. Well, also you have to keep taking it. I mean, a diabetic, well, type 1 especially, who's injecting, but type 2, maybe you can get off of. There are type 2 diabetics then who then don't need to take their medication anymore. But if weight loss is the goal, I think the studies show that 1 year after stopping the GLP-1 agonist, whether it be Ozempic or a different one,
Hmm.
75% of the people regained the entire amount of weight.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's also not the case that people are taking it for a short amount of time, losing the weight, and then keeping it off through changes to diet and lifestyle.
Yeah. I think Ozempic in terms of weight loss, it's still like a diet culture. It still
Of course.
goes to this dieting,
Yeah.
fasting, starvation, literally surviving mode. I right now I'm reading the book Intuitive Eating, like it's
Mhm.
the basics of intuitive eating, and it's not a diet; it's a
Mm.
lifestyle
Yeah.
that we are not doing anymore because of our childhood traumas, how we were raised,
Yeah.
that we were pushed to eat everything, or
Mhm.
especially for females, that we have to look a certain way to be accepted in our society. Right now, it's definitely changing, but still we are under pressure. And it's just we don't know what we like, how we want to eat, how much. It's definitely easier to inject something
I mean, I
instead
think
of
it's natural to say, oh, there's a quick fix.
yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But it comes at a high price.
Mhm.
And also this question of, do you want to be taking that for the rest of your life?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw an ad on Facebook, and the headline was quite promising. Like one injection a day, one injection a week towards your dream body,
Yeah.
and people would think, "Wow, that's
Mhm.
amazing! I want it."
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and regarding such brands like no, we're not talking about brands, but I just give an example. Like Huel, for
Yeah.
example, they have ready-to-eat food supplements, like meal supplements. And I know Stephen Butler from Diary of CEO. He is promoting this brand, but I saw this guy Andy Abu on
Yes.
Instagram. He is huge advocate of eating eggs,
Yeah,
and he
the
says
egg guy.
complete nonsense.
He
So
says it's complete nonsense.
yeah,
Okay.
Eddie Abu says
Well,
complete.
you say that they're food supplements. There's a very um, fast growing segment that I would call food supplement adjacent, and that is functional foods. So, functional foods are things like protein bars or food that has been enriched or fortified with vitamins and minerals. So, I do think we need to distinguish between vitamin and mineral supplements, so vitamin and dietary supplements, this VDS category of food supplements or essential vitamins and minerals, and functional foods. So again, I mean, this is an issue. I know they have things like protein bars. I mentioned these pots, right? These pot meals where you pour hot water
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
into a cup, and they're ready meals, right? It's meal there. We're talking more about, well, not more, we're talking about meal replacement. So at the beginning, what I was trying to bring across is that food supplements you're not replacing a meal, right?
Mhm.
Food supplements will never replace a balanced diet and a varied diet and a healthy lifestyle. They will contribute, if they're formulated well, to closing nutritional gaps. These products that you mentioned, there we're talking with the ready meals and with the instant meals about meal replacement. I don't know if you want to be eating that every day. And with things like protein powders, protein bars, again, I
Yeah.
mean, are you an athlete doing high intensity intermittent activity?
Yeah,
Otherwise, many are very high calorie, can be, I'm not talking about necessarily this brand that you've mentioned. In general, I'm saying that category. You also have to look for, okay, how much sugar am I ingesting? How many calories am I ingesting? Is that necessary for the activity level that I
yeah,
have? But
totally.
that's functional foods, yeah. And that's
Mhm.
growing. I mean, that is a segment that's certainly growing.
Yeah, just so
Also
many
protein powders
sports.
and all that. Yeah, ready to drink.
Yes.
So the categories are, there's ready to drink, there's ready to mix. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just convenient. You just put it with hot water and it's ready.
Yeah,
Instead,
but
you yeah,
yes. Yeah, but I mean, and those are fortified with vitamins and minerals. So maybe you have an argument that they're healthier. But I mean, it's comparable to, like, if you look at something like cup of noodles, that college students eat. You don't want to be eating
yeah,
that every day always. So I think
Yeah.
everything in moderation. I
Mm.
don't think it's a lifestyle.
People will create anything just to ease, like, because we are so busy that we don't want to spend enough time on cooking,
Right.
so we'll create anything to do that. It's like there are so many brands of water that have flavored water with vitamins that, like, but there is just plain water to drink.
Yes.
Why to create additional water?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or there is
There
like
are
protein
some
source.
there are some cases where it's justified. So we know in Germany, in many parts of Europe, that iodine is an issue. That people
Mhm.
are not getting enough iodine. That's why if you go to the grocery store, you'll notice that you always have the option of buying salt that has been fortified with iodine.
Yeah.
Iodine plays a role for the health of your thyroid
Mm.
health and for the hormone house, managing your hormone sort of household. Um,
Mhm.
so there are arguments sometimes for fortifying certain foods with vitamins and minerals, but again, like, not as a meal
Yes.
Yeah.
replacement, not as a replacement for real food.
Talking
Um,
about water, is water dangerous? Tap
Well,
water,
I'll say it's not a stupid question at all.
no.
No. There are people who have passed out from drinking too much water because, of course, it completely can, if you drink too much, mess up your electrolyte balance, the salts in your body. And yeah, so like anything, like this sort of classic, you have to drink 8 glasses a day of water. Um, I don't know if it has to be exactly 8 glasses a day of water. You should certainly be hydrated. Other people say for every cup of coffee you drink, you should drink a glass of water. But there are these people running around with these jugs,
Yeah.
these massive, and those are cases where people, and it happens time and again, they pass out because of their electrolyte household is completely out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In England, I worked as a hospital pharmacist in Bristol, one of the largest teaching hospitals in the country. And often it's a tea drinking culture. And I mean, black tea also can really, you're talking about water, but can also really mess with your potassium levels. So you'd have often older ladies come in, either they had passed out or feeling just awful. And it's that they had too much tea. Because first of all, it's a lot of liquid. So that, that messes with your electrolyte balance and the salts in your body. But then also hypokalemia becomes an issue. So your vitamin K levels, yeah.
But how many cups of tea is it possible to drink,
Well, if
like
you
to
start in
get
the
to that
morning,
level?
well, again, if you're older and maybe you weigh, I don't know, 45 kilos and you're 85 years old, of course need to be
Yes.
careful. Yeah.
Yeah. Natalie, I just want to ask you about the philosophy of Fundiert. What is behind your supplement company?
They're products for emotional wellness and for physical wellness. I think both are extremely important, and they're also very much linked to one another. Often people who have issues with emotional wellness have physical symptoms and vice versa. So
Yeah.
emotional wellness and physical wellness, and also that all of the health claims that are made are absolutely validated and steeped in clinical research. So published research in academic publications where that every single ingredient that has been selected is best in class. I only take 2 products myself of the entire range because I'm not a more is better person. So these people taking like 15, 20 supplements a day, I can't imagine. They must just be rattling around in their bodies. I take 2 a day. I take 1 capsule of immune support complex, which has really the 6 vitamins and minerals that have been proven to support a healthy immune system. So vitamin C, vitamin D, folate, and
B12, as I
zinc,
remember.
zinc, B12, vitamin C, folate, and what am I forgetting? Vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
I take that every day. Every single vitamin is best in class. And I take Balance Support Complex. And Balance Support Complex contains the Afron 30 milligrams. I'm 47 years old. The published clinical data for relieving symptoms, contributing to relieving symptoms of the perimenopause and menopause is outstanding. So emotional wellness, but also vascular symptoms, for example, hot flushes or night sweats. I take that. It also contains vitamin D, which is also called the sunshine
Mm-hmm.
vitamin, energizing B vitamins that carry the health claims, support healthy nerves and psyche, helps against tiredness and exhaustion. And those are the only 2 that I take. But for me, it was important to have pharmaceutical standards applied to food supplements. And we do that voluntarily. The market is wildly underregulated.
True.
Yeah, wildly underregulated. There are major changes that are going to come and that are necessary and long overdue, controls that need to be in place. I think often, especially in Germany, you read made in Germany and you think it's such a quality qualifier when it is not necessarily.
You mentioned statistics that in 2019 there were registered 8,000 supplements.
In 2018, there were 8,000 new food supplements introduced onto the German market, and in 2022, it was 40,000. Now, the large majority of those are white label products. So you visit a health fair, and within 2 weeks, you have Maria's Medicinals, and you have 12 products that have a pan-European label, in 8 languages, English, French, Spanish, Polish, Dutch, whatever, German. and you sell them online. The minimum order quantity is very low, 50, 100 pieces, and if
Yeah.
that sells, that's probably what the guy did who also has a store for LED light bulbs and batteries. And if it goes well, it goes well, and if not, you take it from the market and you move on to the next thing. So the market is growing. It's just inflationary growth, with too few controls, and people who often think that they are medicinal products or pharmaceutical products that have been standardized. And in Germany is the country, of course, of testing and stamps and regulations. And I think the assumption is there that it's extremely controlled, and it's not at all. It's a wild west. There are excellent, and you cannot go by looks. There are some outstanding German brands that are not that much to look at. Like you think like, oh, you could really do with a rebranding. And then there are some that look amazing. And if you look at the ingredients, you think like, yeah. And also be very careful and attuned to the messages you're hearing. I mean, all of our products are vegan, but vegan is not a qualifier for it having health benefits. Just because something is vegan doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be beneficial. Or just
Sugar is vegan.
organic. I mean, you can eat organic vegan marshmallows. That's not going to do anything for your health. So always sort of go one level deeper and really take the time to look at what the vitamins and the minerals and the ingredients are. Go for clean. So the big 8 allergens, gluten, if you look at things like egg, shellfish, all of these things, it should be free of the big 8 allergens, but also be clean, no additives, no fillers, no artificial flavors, no artificial coloring. There's no need for that. And to always have the form stated of the vitamin or mineral that is included. Look for GMP manufacturing. If it is a purely online brand, take the time to really check out the people. Go onto the screen at the bottom, look, search for the people. Who are they? Who's putting this out into the market? Yeah.
Great recommendations.
Yeah.
And talking about future, do you think people become more conscious about their health and want to actually get healthier, have a healthy lifestyle, or it's getting in a wrong direction?
Well, I don't think that health consciousness necessarily translates into being healthier. I mean, the US is an example where there's such a focus on appearance, and yet we know that people are getting heavier. I mean, I'm talking about morbid obesity, like people who really have health problems related to increased weight, even though that's a country that I would say arguably is the most focused on this whole issue um, uh, of weight loss. We know that the market in Europe is in line with Germany. So the German market is growing about 4 to 5% year on year for vitamin and dietary supplements, the VDS market. That's in line with Europe. There's countries like Poland growing at about 8%, Asia at about 20%. So that's interesting. Countries that were not taking food supplements at all now are growing, very steep and fast growth. And we also know that, for example, in Germany, a third of people living in Germany are taking food supplements, and the large majority of them are taking more than 2. So, yeah, I mean, the data shows that people are taking food supplements, all the more important that they're taking the right ones and that they actually come with health benefits. Because at best you're paying for something, it's a wasted resource and it's not helping you. And at worst, you're taking something and it's actually harmful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Happened.
Yeah. But I mean, you're the exception where you are 2 people who go extremely into depth and want to know more and want to go into detail. And you'll be surprised a lot of people, I think, spend more time picking out, I don't know, a shampoo than they do a food supplement.
But it's also important. Shampoo is also important.
You're right. Maybe not the best example, but yes.
Outfit, I would say.
Exactly. Outfit.
Or yeah, like I would, for example, like if there is like opportunity to spend money on skincare or makeup, I would spend on skincare and supplements.
You don't want to include mineral oils. You don't want to include phthalates or any of those nasties. That's very important. You're right. Your skin is the largest organ. And we talked about the example of magnesium and systemic absorption. You have to be very careful. That's true.
Yeah. Oh my God. After uh, this conversation, like, even though I already took the supplements from your brand, I will go just to check
No,
more.
no, I'm worried that I don't know, I'm worried that we went too micro and too, I mean, I can talk about each single ingredient
Yeah.
for a really long time. And I know that's not what everyone wants to hear. Sometimes you want just sort of the top lines. So I
Well,
hope
people want
you
it
edit
easy
it to make
solution.
it shorter. And yeah.
Uh, yeah, but thank you so much. Uh, just we are extremely grateful for all your knowledge because it was a lot to learn for us. So many new, interesting, and important words.
Well, thank you
Uh,
for all the work you do. I know you're out there informing people and are very focused on healthcare and spreading the message about healthy living. So we need more
Yeah,
thank
people
you,
focused.
definitely.
uh, Natalie. Where to find you? Like how to connect with you?
So through fundiert.com, the website, fundiert is Foondiert. And the reason that Fundiert is, I love this name. So, I mean, I was so excited when I came up with it. And I know I asked my husband, I'm like, what do you think of the name Fundiert? And he was like, well, I don't know. I mean, every company, every brand has to be called something. I guess it's fine. But the reason why I chose it is because if you drop the N, you have the word food. And if you drop the R, you have the word diet. And that's really what it's about. It's not about replacing, a varied diet and a healthy
Yeah.
lifestyle. It's about closing these nutritional gaps. So you can find us at fundiert.com. You can find us on some outstanding platforms for premium cosmetics and supplements, for example, nichebeauty.com, which you may
I
know.
know. Yeah.
I don't know if you have viewers in Asia, but we are available through Biorg. Also, but in Germany, every single Fundiert product has an 8-digit PZN number, which is a central pharmaceutical number, and we are represented by the largest pharmacy cooperative in Germany as our wholesaler. So we're available in all pharmacies in Germany. If you order Fundiert, you will get it same day delivery. Please also follow on Instagram, and you'll get lots of helpful, or I hope for you, helpful information
Definitely
about the
helpful.
wellness space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. All right. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay updated with our future content and support what we are doing, don't forget to give it a thumb up, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest episode.